Listening to Radioactive on 91.3 FM CJTR. With me right now is Canadian singer-songwriter Shawn Hook. How are you doing, Shawn?
I'm doing very well, Victoria. Thank you for having me on your show today.
Yeah, I'm super excited to talk to you. I mean, there hasn't been a lot of music stuff going on, like you said before, in today's world right now.
Yeah, yeah, it's a challenging time for a lot of people right now, and especially the music community, because we can't get out there and play for people, and people can't come out and enjoy it. So it's a lot of us are stuck at home right now, making the most of the situations. So
Yeah, and what have you been
hash
busy
out to me, because
and like what have you been
what have I been busy doing?
yeah, during quarantine?
Well, it's this summer has actually I've tried to balance it a bit because I'm a bit of a workaholic, but just I think mental health is so important as well. So I've been a little bit I haven't been so hard on my like really hit. So thankfully I have a lot of music that's already done and recorded, and it says my internet connection is unstable. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Sorry about that. The nature of interviews these days is all dependent on internet connection. But thankfully, I had a lot of work and songs done and recorded going into kind of the isolation period and the pandemic that we're all in. And I still have been writing music, but I've also been getting out as much as I can. I'm in California right now, so the pandemic is the public situation is a little worse down here in terms of the numbers and the cases. So but there are areas, like there's certain beach areas that you can get to that there aren't too many people, and yeah, I've just been trying to make the most of it while I can.
Yeah, and you said you've been doing some writing. So what are you learning from writing at home opposed to being in a studio and doing all that writing?
Yeah, it's interesting. I have a studio here, I have a home studio, and I do write and record at a lot of other people's home studios. But the biggest change has been the Zoom sessions, which before the pandemic, I've never ever had a Zoom writing session before.
Same. Never used
Yeah,
it.
and now I actually kind of prefer them. As a songwriter, it's interesting because in Los Angeles, it's common for songwriters to collaborate with other producers, other writers, other musicians, and sometimes, you get in a room with three other people, and before you have a song, you kind of start working on the beat or like the drum, and you start focusing on like the snare drum and the kick drum, and you realize, well, we don't really have a song yet, so what are we really doing? Whereas writing on Zoom, you're kind of limited in what you can do real time, so you have to focus on the lyrics, the melody, and just basic chord structure, and that is essentially is how the best songs in the world were written. You start with the basics, and then you build around it. But nowadays we have so much distractions as producers and writers. It's great. We have so much technology and so many different ways we can create and emote. But at the end of the day, a great song works in its simplest form. And that's what Zoom allows you to do, is just work on a song in its simplest form. And I've really enjoyed that, and it's been eye-opening for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've also done some living room concerts too over quarantine.
Yeah.
Kind of what limitations do you feel like you have with a virtual show?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I did about 10 concerts in a row every week, and I learned a lot every single week. The first week was a bit of a nightmare because I learned that I needed a better Wi-Fi connection. Because that's rule number one when you're going to do anything live streaming is your internet connection. So I addressed that the next week. And then I was doing them on Instagram. So one of the weeks I discovered that it cuts off after an hour. Uh,
What?
yeah, so I wasn't expecting to go for more than an hour, but I just happened to, that was the nature of the beast. And uh, I was in the middle of a song and it just cut off. So it's like, oh, okay,
Oh
I learned
wow.
that. So the third week, I finally figured out kind of the kinks and just the technical things. And then I finally started getting used to the idea of finishing a song and not hearing anything. This is so awkward. um, but eventually, seeing people's interactions and comments and stuff, I was getting used to that. And then by the halfway through, like by week 5, it started to feel like I was actually putting on concerts,
Hmm.
which was great. But not the same as live. Not the same as live. That's
Yeah.
the human interaction is, you can't really replace that.
Is that what you would say you miss most about live shows? Is that interaction between the fans and the artist?
Yeah, and just the build up and just there's something exciting every time I play a show in a different venue in a different place. I'm very regimented and I have a routine day of the show, which I did from live streams, but it's just fun when you're in a different city and I don't know, the energy you feel. It is because of the people in the audience, but it's also just different venues have different stories and different histories, and it's just inspiring all around. And you get a different feeling when you walk on a stage, like say, the Red Rocks in California, or sorry,
Yeah.
in Colorado,
Yeah.
as compared to when you walk into your living room and you sit down.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you do tour, where's your favorite place to go travel to?
uh, Great question. I love in Canada. I love playing in St. John's, Newfoundland. It's just so cool because you're like literally at the end of the other side of the country. Because I grew up on the West Coast, and I find that people are so appreciative. The fans are so appreciative out there for live music because it's really tough to tour there because you can't drive really. You have to take a ferry. So um, so when you're there, and I love the city. It's just there's so much history there, and the people are friendly, and I love going there in Canada. Uh, I really enjoyed going to Red Rocks, which I mentioned in Denver, Colorado, because that venue is just so iconic, and it's one of the most unique venues in the world. It's like built into a mountain, and some of my favorite live performance DVDs were shot there. John Mayer's DVD and Coldplay. It's just there's so much like rich band history there too. So that's one of the favorites for sure.
Yeah, and you've done quite a bit of touring and playing shows. Do you have any good tour stories, whether it's a funny one or if it was a stressful story at all?
Yeah. So one of the tours I was on tour with a band, Marianne's Trench from Canada,
Yeah.
and we were making our way back. We had gone from west to east, and then we're going back east to west. And we had a show in Victoria, and we were coming from Alberta, and we were making our way, and then the road closed, and so we got stuck in Cache Creek, which is a really small town in British Columbia, at a Husky gas station. So we like there's like nothing there, but so we had both of our buses parked side to side. Actually, I think there was another bus. There was a crew bus too. So there's three buses like in this gas station parking lot, and we just partied for a day straight because the show unfortunately got canceled. So like, well, what are we gonna do for 3 days in a parking lot? we just had so much fun. Like no one was anticipating it, but we were literally camping in the winter in a bus in a Husky station parking lot, and we made the most of it. And Mariners Trench like drank all my alcohol because they ran out. They came to my bus and took my rider, and we partied. It was fun.
Oh my. And back in July, you released a single called Holding On To You. What was your writing process like for the song?
Yeah, I'm excited that the song is out. I wrote that song here in Los Angeles. It's kind of funny. So there's these two writers in a band called Fly By Midnight, and when they first came to Los Angeles, I hadn't really heard of them, and I really liked what they did, but at the time I was like I was in a weird situation with my career. I was with my former label, and we were having a bit of a creative difference on songs, but I think I had over 100 songs that we were trying to focus on for my next record, and we could barely agree on 3 songs. And so I kept telling these guys, sorry, I'm not writing right now. I'm not writing right now. I'm just focusing on my current material. And so I kind of blew them off a bit, but they were so hungry and persistent with me, like, dude, we really believe in you. Like we would love to work with you or just hang out with you, like something. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, we'll make it happen. We'll make it happen. So eventually we put the date on the calendar, and they came to my studio, and we totally hit it off. And Holding On To You was the third song we wrote, and it felt special the day we wrote it. It felt I was really happy with the production as well, but I had to really fight for that song to make it on my new EP. But it was like the last. I think it was like the last. It was the last song on the record, and but eventually people were like, "Wow, this is a great song. It should be your next single." So I'm happy that it won people over. But yeah, I think we wrote that about a year ago this time.
Yeah, and you said you've been working on an EP, so when's that going to come out?
It's looking like it's going to come out October 23rd is what we're aiming for. So I have another single actually coming out next week. No, not next week. On the 18th, on September
Cool.
18th. Yes, I'm really
Nice.
excited about that one as well. And a music video coming out too, which is cool. Which is what I also was able to do during the quarantine, shooting that, holding on to the music video, and the next one.
Yeah. And where do you get your inspiration to write your songs from?
All over the place. I'm an emotional person, and so my mom bought me this painting, or not even a painting, it was artwork I think from like Target or IKEA, like very highbrow, but I really loved the quote. It was, "Music is what feelings sound like." And to me, it totally resonated because when I was in high school, even before high school, I used to sit down at the piano and just make up songs, just music, without lyrics, just literally just piano pieces, which in my mind I was writing piano songs. But I was just playing out my emotions, and it hasn't really changed for me. Songwriting is basically writing out your emotions and writing stories, like little 3-minute movies of stories of what you're going through. And for me, it's all emotion based. So I try to draw on that as much as I can.
Mhm. And how did you get into music when you were younger?
Uh, Happened pretty early. My grandfather was a guitar player and a singer, and he used to sing for us all the time when we were babies and kids. And my mom had a little piano, like electric piano, and I guess when I was 4, I used to just sit there and like bang it and make noise. And so my parents were like, "Well, maybe we should put him in piano lessons." And so they put my sister on in piano lessons at like 4 years old. My sister's 2 years older, so she was 6. I just basically tagged along. And honestly, piano lessons at that age, just like hot cross buns. But
You gotta
it
start
was
somewhere.
yeah. But I really took off. I really loved it and got into classical music. And then in high school, I got into jazz, and I started like a band and a cover band. And then after high school, I got into like a successful cover band, like a disco band. And music was just so much fun for me, and I loved it. And it hadn't stopped since I was a kid.
And when did you write your first song, like your own song? Do you remember?
Well, I remember writing. Yeah, I remember going to piano lessons when I was like, I think like 8 or 9, and I had a thing. I had like a chord progression, and I remember my teacher being, "That could be a song," but actually putting words to a song. I think I was in the 9th grade, and I remember, she knows this story, but there was this girl I had a crush on. We dated for like 2 weeks. Her name's Nyoka, and I wrote a song called "Nyoka, I Love You." It was probably, I mean, it was like one of the worst songs ever, but I was at that time, it was very emotive, you know? Um, but yeah, I think in high school, in the 11th grade, I enrolled in this music course called music composition. Our high school offered it, which was incredible because it was basically a songwriting course. And that's when I first really started writing full-length songs, and that really lit a fire under me, and I haven't stopped.
Yeah, and which artists or bands kind of inspired you to keep making music?
Well, early on, like the Beatles, obviously, their catalog is massive. But I really, like, John Mayer was a huge inspiration for me. Just lyrically, he's just one of the best songwriters lyrically, and one of the best guitar players as well. Elton John, as a piano player, he excited me growing up as a piano player. You know, it's tough to really get excited about like, classical music as a kid. But Elton John was like one of the like people that made it cool and exciting. And then Coldplay and Radiohead, I went through like a bit of a UK kind of pop rock phase, although I guess you wouldn't call Radiohead pop, but Coldplay like definitely gets a bit of that from Radiohead. But yeah, those were kind of my biggest like influences. And then Queen, of course, Freddie Mercury, piano player, singer, and like, yeah, I'm all over the place. I listened to a lot of country music too growing up, so
Yeah.
I'm all over the place.
And if you could collaborate with any artist on a song, who would it be?
Great question. There's so many talented artists right now. I mean, this question has been posed to me before. It'd be fun to do something with someone that's completely different than me. Like, like I think like Drake would be awesome.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I think Adele would be amazing. She's just an incredible singer. Um, yeah, there's so many artists out there that I'd love to work with.
Hmm.
But Put
And
Drake and Adele.
and it's not easy to get into the music industry, so how does it feel to be able to be making a career out of music?
Yeah, it's definitely not easy. It's definitely not easy to keep a career either. It's challenging. Every day is challenging. You kind of have to work just as hard, if not harder, once you've made it, so to speak. I still feel like I haven't made it. I still feel like there's a lot for me to prove and a lot for me to do, and I think that's what keeps me hungry. But yeah, I think to really get notice out there, you just have to put in the work. There's no substitution for work. You can be talented, but if you don't have a work ethic, then you're probably not gonna get through the clutter, because there's a lot of people that might not be as talented but work harder than anybody who has a lot of talent that end up getting places. And I consider myself in that category. Like I know I have quite a bit of talent, but I know there's people that are way more talented than me, but I work really hard. I wake up every day and I get to work, whether it's writing a song or whether it's doing the administration stuff, or going on being interact with my fans, or anything. You just have to apply yourself. And if anyone out there is watching this and they're trying to get into it, I would say just work your butt off, work harder than anybody in any industry, and you'll be fine.
And if you could change one thing about the music industry, what would you want to change about it?
Oh wow, there's so many things I'd love to change.
Or a few, yeah, if you can
Um,
list a few if you want.
I mean, I think there's a I think there's an equality problem. I think it could be more diverse across across the board. I think different cultures, different men and women. I think it's dominated by men, and I think there needs to be more female voices. I think there needs to be more people from the LGBT community getting the same amount of attention and push that major labels put on other artists. I think we are getting more aware of that. On the business side of things, I think the songwriters need to be paid more fairly than they are right now from streaming providers, because right now it's a little in the favor of record labels and people that own masters, I guess, not just record labels, but master owners, which in a lot of times it is the record labels. So yeah, there's a lot of things that can change. And I think we just have to keep using our voices, and thankfully there are people in the communities that are, and we're getting there.
Yeah. And once quarantine is over, hopefully it ends soon, what's your next move musically? Are you gonna go on a tour, release new music, record more?
All of the above. I think, thankfully I'm currently doing that right now. So I guess once the pandemic is lifted, it's definitely going on tour and performing live again. Because that's the one big limitation right now. Because thankfully, with the technology and with Zoom and whatnot, I've been able to continue to write music and record. I've been producing a lot myself as well too. So it's just going to be more of releasing and writing, or releasing stuff that I've been writing, and maybe producing on my own, and then hopefully touring. That's the big change that I'm looking forward to. Hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah, I hope we can see some artists get out on the road again soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We need our fans. I think the fans need us.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for doing an interview today, Shawn.
Yeah, thank you, Victoria. I appreciate it. Hopefully I didn't talk too much.
Oh no, you were perfect.
All right, thank you.